Wow, we've heard so much great comments today. How to do more, how to be more, how to care more, how to make a bigger difference. I believe in order to do all of that, we need to trust more. I mean, if you look around the world today, literally every institution of modern life, I've never seen such low levels of trust. We're in a crisis. Now, I'd like you to think about, what if your success depended upon your teammates coming to work every day and putting their lives in your hands? And I don't mean that figuratively, I mean it literally, that they come to work 6 days a week for 2 years and every day depend on you for their life. Well, for 2 years I had the rare privilege and honor of being the commanding officer and flight leader of the Blue Angels. My daughters are up in the back row in the balcony, and this is what they refer to as my Buzz Lightyear picture. Flying in the #1 jet, though, I never forgot the tragedy that befell our Air Force brethren, the Thunderbirds, when on January 18th, 1982, they were doing a formation loop in training, and the leader didn't pull out. And they put 4 supersonic jets, symmetrically spaced, into the desert floor, killing all 4 pilots. And that sounds crazy, but when you're flying just a couple feet apart, at 300, 400, 500 miles an hour, at very low altitude, doing 3-dimensional aerobatics. Believe me, the wingmen aren't looking around enjoying the scenery. They are looking at the leader in order to make sure that they stay in position. Here we are in San Francisco. Right at center point. Now, there's no fancy computers doing this. This is all old-fashioned eye-hand coordination. Steely concentration for 40 minutes. Now, we didn't start out that way. We didn't start out that close, of course. You know, we started out in preseason training, 2 by 2 by 2, relatively high and far apart. And as we built trust and confidence, we gradually brought the formations together, 4 jets, then 6 jets, getting closer and lower to the ground. And that trust and confidence is built over time, and what I came to understand is that my teammates every day were asking 5 simple questions about me. And based on the answers they got, they would make a decision to what degree they were going to trust me. Are they going to fly here, or are they going to fly here? And I believe those are the same 5 questions that your team is asking about you, based on the axiom that in order to be trusted, you must be trustworthy. The first question is, do you walk your talk? Do you keep your commitments? Do you live up to your promises? Do you live the shared values? The second question was, because they knew without a doubt that I was going to be there when the sun was shining and the air was smooth and everything was going great, but they knew that there were going to be challenges coming during the season. And what they wondered was I going to be with them whenever times are tough? Whenever we have to take a punch? And not only that, but just showing up, they want to know, am I going to show up playing my A game, leading them to victory? That's what they wanted to know. And early in the season, we were doing an air show in El Paso, Texas. And the wind was blowing that day, 25 knots, gusting 30 to 35, blowing over a ridgeline west of the airport, putting tremendous turbulence in the air overhead the airport. And as we marched down and climbed in the jets and taxied out in formation and took the runway, I frankly wasn't sure how this was going to go, because I had never flown a Blue Angel air show in that type of turbulence. We lit the afterburners, turned on the smoke, rolled down the runway, accelerated, the formation lifted off. We accelerated to 300 knots, and I pulled back and took us into the vertical for our looping maneuver on takeoff. And my fears were realized. I mean, we were getting thumped by this turbulence. Bang, bang, bang. And I'm just hunkered down in my cockpit in the number 1 jet, trying to fly the most solid airplane I can for my wingman. And after a while, we're getting thrown around, and I'm wondering, how are we not hitting? And then I glance in my rear view mirrors, and behind me, all I see is blue and gold metal. These guys are welded in, Blue Angel close, flying a solid, safe air show for 40 minutes. And after we landed, we were a different team. We taxied back off the runway in formation, pulled into the line, shut down the motors, canopies come up. I'm drenched in sweat. We're all mentally and physically exhausted. We climb out of the jets, form up and march down, and then end the show by a sharp salute to the crowd. And then shake each other's hands, smile in relief. And then the number 2 pilot, Major Pat Cook, looks over at me and says, "Way to go, boss." And in fighter pilot vernacular, that is a high praise, let me tell you. Wow. So we were a different team. Different team that day, because that day they learned that on the toughest days, I was going to be there flying my best jet. And I learned that on the toughest days, they were going to be there with me all the way. And we took our performance to a new level. Throughout the season, we continued to refine and improve and get a little closer and a little lower and the show a little tighter as we continue to try to meet the standards of excellence and perfection of the Blue Angels, pushing human performance every single day. And every day these guys would come to work. And I realized very quickly that as the leader, I could have a good day and the team might have an average day. But the team would never have a great day if I, as a leader, didn't have a great day. And so as we'd sit down at the table for our pre-flight brief, I could see question number 3 in their eyes. And that was, are you good enough to lead us today? Are you better than you were yesterday, but not as good as you're going to be tomorrow? And it took constant improvement all the time, always pushing myself to get out into my discomfort zone, always willing to accept positive, constructive feedback every day in order to get better and better and better. I could never let up in trying to improve if I was going to sustain the trust of my wingmen.